The aristocracy maintains its power through strategic marriages and alliances. This rule emphasizes the importance of marriage as a political tool in the aristocratic world. In a society where social mobility was limited and power was often inherited, marriage became a key strategy for the preservation and expansion of wealth, influence, and political control. Through strategic alliances, aristocrats could secure territories, create political leverage, and ensure the continuity of their power. This practice was widespread among noble families throughout history, especially in feudal Europe, where political stability was often fragile and power dynamics were heavily reliant on personal relationships. Introduction. The role of marriage in aristocratic power. Marriage in aristocratic societies was far more than a personal bond between two individuals. It was a strategic alliance that served as a vehicle for the preservation of family power, wealth, and influence. Unlike common marriages based on love or mutual affection, aristocratic unions were often carefully arranged, with the future of entire dynasties and political systems at stake. Aristocratic marriages were part of a larger political calculus, where love, attraction, and individual desires were secondary to the more pressing concerns of dynastic continuity, territorial expansion, and political survival. Aristocrats married within their own class to maintain the purity of their bloodlines and wealth, but they also looked outward, seeking alliances with other noble families or even royal houses to solidify their standing in the complex and often volatile political landscape. The nature of aristocratic marriages: dynastic marriages and power consolidation. Aristocrats understood that the continuation of their family line was crucial for maintaining their status and power. A marriage, especially one between noble families, was often intended to consolidate power. By marrying into another noble family, aristocrats could expand their territory, secure resources, and form strategic partnerships that were beneficial to both parties. For example, when two powerful families arranged a marriage, the union might involve a dowry, land grants, or political influence. The family members involved in the marriage could now be considered allies, making it harder for outsiders to challenge their collective power. Additionally, marriages were a way of bringing together resources such as armies, wealth, and territories, making the couple stronger together than they would have been separately. Marriage as a tool for political alliances. Political marriages were often arranged to secure military or diplomatic support. When a noble house faced external threats, whether from rival families, monarchs, or foreign nations, marrying into an allied family could provide crucial military backing or help to seal alliances that would otherwise take years to build through negotiation. These alliances could also be expanded across generations, further strengthening political and military ties. For example, in medieval Europe, powerful monarchs and noble families often married to secure treaties or peace agreements. A strategic marriage between the daughter of one noble family and the son of another could establish a long-lasting peace and offer military support should the need arise. Marriages between royal families were an especially important tool for creating alliances across kingdoms and uniting them against common enemies. Social status and prestige. The marriage of an aristocrat was also a means to maintain or elevate their social status. By aligning with families of equal or higher rank, aristocrats could assert their position in society. For the most prestigious families, marriage to a lesser house was often used to establish a social order where power was derived not only from wealth or military power but also from prestige. This system was important because the perception of aristocratic standing often mattered just as much as real military or economic power. A family's reputation was tied to the marriages its members made. Families with royal bloodlines or significant influence would often marry into other powerful houses to preserve their elevated status. In many cases, marriage negotiations were designed to ensure that both sides retained or enhanced their social standing. Strategic marriages and bloodlines. Hereditary titles and bloodlines. The concept of bloodlines was central to the aristocratic marriage system. Titles such as duke, count, baron, or prince were inherited through the male line in many societies, which meant that aristocratic families worked diligently to maintain the strength of their bloodlines through marriage. Intermarriage among the aristocracy ensured that noble titles and power remained within the elite class. For example, in Europe, royal families frequently arranged marriages between cousins, uncles, and nieces to preserve their pure royal bloodlines. This led to many European royal families having interconnected family trees, often marrying into one another's dynasties to strengthen their political claims. Intermarriage between closely related families helped ensure that titles were passed down intact, ensuring that the family's wealth, land, and power remained under a single name. This system was particularly useful in feudal Europe, where land and titles were the foundation of aristocratic power. By marrying into the family of another powerful, intermarriage between closely related families helped ensure that titles were passed down intact, ensuring that the family's wealth, land, and power remained under a single name. This system was particularly useful in feudal Europe, where land and titles were the foundation of aristocratic power. By marrying into the family of another powerful noble, an aristocrat could increase their wealth or territorial holdings, allowing them to control even more valuable assets. Marriages between royal families. Royal marriages were particularly important for securing peace treaties, forming alliances, and preserving the integrity of the ruling class. Throughout history, European monarchs frequently arranged marriages to strengthen their royal houses, protect their nations, and secure their positions in a constantly shifting political landscape. One famous example of this practice is the marriage of Catherine of Aragon to Henry VIII of England. Their union was not based on love but political necessity. Catherine was the daughter of the King of Spain, and her marriage to Henry was an alliance between two powerful nations. When the marriage ultimately faltered, it set off a series of political, religious, and social upheavals. But the core principle of using marriage to secure national interests remained unchanged. Dowries and wealth transfer. A marriage within the aristocracy was also a significant financial transaction. A dowry, usually a sum of money or land given by the bride's family to the groom, was an important aspect of many aristocratic marriages. Dowries could ensure that the family marrying off their daughter would be compensated for their loss and give the groom the resources he needed to establish himself in the marriage. For example, in Italy during the Renaissance, wealthy families frequently exchanged significant dowries as part of marriage contracts. These dowries could include land, estates, or cash, resources that could provide the husband with the wealth needed to govern a region, establish a court, or maintain a private army. Thus, marriages were a tool not only for political alliances but also for the expansion of family wealth and control over assets. The impact of strategic marriages on society: long-term stability and power. One of the central goals of aristocratic marriages was to ensure the continuity of power. Strategic marriages allowed families to create networks of influence that could last for generations. Even after the death of the individuals involved, the alliances forged through marriage could help shape the political landscape for years to come. These alliances were often more reliable than other forms of political negotiation, as they bound families together not just by political necessity but by blood ties. Generational connections made through marriages often ensured that alliances would endure, with children inheriting the promises and benefits made by their parents. Social control and consolidation. Through strategic marriages, aristocratic families could also consolidate power by keeping land and resources within their network. Instead of relying on external forces or kings, noble families controlled large tracts of land through a web of intermarried relatives, creating a self-sustaining system that was largely impervious to external interference. The practice of maintaining social control through marriage ensured that aristocratic families did not lose their wealth or position due to poor management or external competition. It also prevented the concentration of power in the hands of a few families by constantly weaving new connections into the social fabric. The decline of strategic marriages in modern times. As society has evolved, strategic marriages have become less common, particularly among the aristocracy. With the rise of democracy, capitalism, and individualism, the importance of arranged marriages and alliances based on family interest has waned. However, some remnants of this practice persist in modern times. Royal families and nobility still marry for political or economic reasons, even if their power is largely symbolic rather than practical. In contemporary society, strategic marriages often take the form of business partnerships, corporate alliances, or marriages between wealthy individuals seeking to maintain or elevate their social standing. While the form and function may have changed, the underlying principles of wealth consolidation and social status preservation remain in effect. Conclusion: the legacy of strategic marriages in aristocracy rule no. 3 of aristocracy. The aristocracy maintains its power through strategic marriages and alliances, highlights the central role that marriage played in maintaining and consolidating aristocratic power. Through these marriages, aristocrats could secure wealth, territory, and political influence, as well as ensure the continuation of their bloodline. These unions were not based on personal desire but on a calculated understanding of the political, social, and economic forces at play in the aristocratic world. While the nature of strategic marriages has evolved in the modern world, their legacy endures. The alliances and networks built through marriage still shape contemporary society in subtle but powerful ways. Understanding the importance of these unions in aristocratic systems gives us valuable insight into how the elite have maintained their dominance throughout history, and how such practices continue to influence our world today.